classic. Hit it!
Hey, and welcome to Segalicious, the series with a stupid name where we explore Sega games, both old and new. If you've seen previous episodes of Segalicious, then you'll know that I'm a big fan of the Dreamcast, so I wanted this episode to also focus on one of its games. Released in 1999 in Japan and in 2000 elsewhere, Space Channel 5 is perhaps the most unique rhythm game of all time, and it's a game that devoted Sega fans will instantly recognize. The game was produced by industry veteran Tetsuya Mizuguchi, who you might know from games like Rez and Tetris Effect, and his love for creating bizarre and really one-of-a-kind games is on center stage here. Taking inspiration from science fiction media, real-world news broadcasts, and 1960s big band jazz music, Space Channel 5 is an anomaly of a video game, and it's one that I've had a lot of fun with over the years. With all of that being said, let's jump into our main story tonight, Space Cats. Despite being a rhythm game, Space Channel 5 has a narrative-driven story mode. Our heroine, Ulala, is the attention-catching reporter from the titular Space Channel 5 news station, and after a group of aliens called Morolians start attacking the populace, Ulala not only has to save the day, but she also has to get the highest ratings for her broadcasts. Throughout her journey, Ulala comes across civilians that she must save, but she also encounters rival reporters who wish to steal her story. The banter between Ulala and these other space reporters combined with the drama involving the aliens and the civilians forms the basis of the game's narrative, and I've always thought that this part of the game was awesome. The story is very simple, but it's also extremely original, and I can't say that I've ever played a game with a plot like this before. All the characters are so bright and colourful, and they're wonderfully brought to life through a mix of hand animation and motion capture. Going back to Ulala specifically now, according to a 2001 GameSpot interview with Mizuguchi, it was revealed that Ulala was designed by the team as a whole, and that she changed a lot over time. Her original design pictured here included a helmet, but the game's art director, Yumiko Miyabe, provided the final design that we all know and love today. Ulala's pink hair and orange outfit, which was a reference to the Dreamcast logo by the way, is a very unorthodox color combination, especially for a video game protagonist, but it perfectly fits the game's really weird and wacky setting. The whole game looks like if you were to blend a kilogram of Skittles and just rub it everywhere you could, making everything you see super colorful as a result. Thanks to the Dreamcast GD-ROM technology, Space Channel 5 includes an interesting mix of real-time visuals and pre-rendered video files. The characters and their animations are being rendered in-engine in real time as you play the game, but the backgrounds are pre-rendered videos. This was accomplished by using the ADX file format, which provided many Japanese games from the early 2000s with their audio. Due to the large amount of pre-rendered video and audio files on the game's disc, 99.5% of all available data was being used, so the developers crammed in everything that they possibly could. Before we move on, I'd also like to speak a bit more about Ulala herself. Not the character, but the real-life version. This is Japanese dancer Nazu Nahoko, and she provided the motion capture for Ulala's animations. She even went as far as to promote the game at Tokyo Game Show 1999 by cosplaying as Ulala, and these old photos are really cool. Not only does Ulala ooze personality in the final game, but she does in the real world too. To help promote the game in America, Sega held an Ulala look-alike contest in Universal City, California, where girls between the ages of 9 and 21 could cosplay as Ulala. The winner of this contest was given $500 at a Dreamcast. This article also mentions that Ulala was even meant to appear on MTV at some points, but I believe this tie-in was cancelled midway through production. There are 4 levels in Space Channel 5, and they each represent part of Ulala's journey. When she comes across a group of aliens, a dance segment begins, and these segments make up a bulk of the game. You use the D-pad and 2 buttons to participate in these, and they remind me a lot of Simon Says. Paying close attention to the aliens' movements is crucial, as you may miss vital gameplay information if you look away from the screen for whatever reason. One of the buttons is for shooting enemies, which is where the iconic choose sound effect comes from, and the other button is used for saving hostages. By getting into the groove and playing really well, you fill up the ratings bar in the bottom right-hand corner, and the civilians you rescue drop what they were doing beforehand and join you throughout the stage. However, if you mess up a lot and lose your ratings, you reach a pretty abrupt game over screen.
The show's being cancelled?
I don't know about you, but this used to kinda jump scare me as a kid. Anyway, playing properly means that you never have to worry about being taken off the air, and when you really get into it, you can enter the zone if that makes sense. Concentrating hard on the game used to put me into a trance when I was younger, and it was like I stopped noticing everything outside of the game. Dancing levels are great and all, but I haven't even gotten into the shooting segments yet. With her trusty laser guns, Ulala can bring the hurt on the Morolians, and this also takes the form of a rhythm-based segment. Much like the dancing levels, finding the correct rhythm is the key to victory, so I hope you aren't tone deaf. Space Channel 5 might not be as complex as other rhythm games, but its eye-catching visuals more than make up for it, and the game can actually become quite challenging as things start to speed up in the later levels, at least on a first playthrough. The characters also have amazing animations that express personality, but they only look as cool as your gameplay. So if you mess up a lot by missing notes in the song, Ulala will start throwing herself around with reckless abandon instead of properly dancing. And mess up you will, because even though I really like this game, I feel like I have to point out some of its issues. A common criticism that many players have with the game is that sometimes the audio and the visuals aren't synced up properly. This can be due to various reasons, like a laggy monitor for example, and while I don't think there's a singular cause for this issue as everybody has different setups, I noticed that reviews for this game from back in 2000 do mention the delay. Space Channel 5 is also very short, and you can finish the whole game in one sitting if you have nothing to do for a few hours at home. Finally, the game is also very simple, and while it has an impeccable sense of style, it does get a bit repetitive over time, especially on repeat playthroughs. Look, I'm not trying to hate on the game or anything like that, but I think it wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention some of the gripes that critics had with the game back in 2000. I still think Space Channel 5 is an amazing experience when looked at holistically, but there are a few aspects here and there that leave a little to be desired. It wouldn't be right if I ended the video without discussing the game's fantastic audio, so let's get into it. Composed by Naofumi Hataya and Kenichi Tokoi, Space Channel 5 has an extremely distinctive soundtrack and every level has its own music. Featuring genres like techno, trance, and the aforementioned big beat jazz, you can never predict what you'll hear next in the game. The game's theme tune, 1966's Mexican Flyer, is a licensed track from the late British composer Ken Woodman, and it was included in the game after Tetsuya Mizuguchi personally tracked down Woodman to ask his permission to include the song. The other music in the game is just as catchy too. Take a listen. Perhaps the most interesting part of the game's audio, at least in my opinion, is its voice acting. Unlike other games where we know who the voice actors are before the games themselves even release, Sega kept really quiet about the identities of the voice actors in Space Channel 5. Many of the characters are voiced by team members who worked on the game, although Ulala has different voice actors for both English and Japanese. In Japan, she's voiced by Minako Okumura, and due to the strenuous recording process brought about by the game's strict development cycle, Okumura would often be reduced to tears. Ouch. In English, however, Ulala is voiced by Apollo Smile. While I can't get into her entire history, Apollo Smile is quite the interesting person, and she even used to call herself the live-action anime girl when she was on TV. To put a long story short, after a series of appearances on TV and at various anime and video game events in the 90s, Apollo found herself working as a voice actor for anime, which is how she got the role of Ulala. The friendly yet professional tone of voice that Smile uses for her portrayal of Ulala in the game always stuck with me, and I don't think that many other game characters simply sound like this.
Hey there, Space Cats! Ulala here coming at you for Spaceport 9. Tonight I'm investigating reports that aliens have invaded and are forcing people to dance.
These old videos of Smile acting as a charismatic TV host are quite like how Ulala acts in the final game, so I believe that Apollo Smile's real-world TV experience helped shape the Ulala character. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our journey, Space Cats. Despite the gripes that people have with Space Channel 5, it's still an extremely fun time, so I highly recommend the game. There's simply nothing else like it, and even though it received a sequel, which I'll definitely cover one day, the first game successfully laid the groundwork for a brand new type of rhythm game, one that focuses on characters in addition to the music in order to provide a totally new experience. I wish we had more games like Space Channel 5, and honestly, Ulala is my favorite part of the whole game. She's one of the coolest and most memorable female protagonists in any game that I've ever played, and with Sega confirming that many of their older IPs are making a return in 2025 and beyond, I think we may have a shot of getting a brand new game in the series. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next episode of Segalicious.